Hello, Spookies. Welcome back to the Rick or Treat Horrorcast, hosted by yours ghoulie, Ricky J. Duarte. I'm joined today by a very special guest host. This woman is a theatrical professional, a actress, director, producer, siren of song, a very talented individual, and also happens to be my very best friend. I am joined today by Victoria Rae Padgett.
Hello, it's wonderful to be here.
I'm so happy to finally have you on this podcast. It's been a little bit tricky trying to find the right way to get you on here because you are not the world's biggest horror fan.
That's correct. I feel like that's the one way in which we are different is our love and not love of horror.
It's true. I have tried to show Victoria horror movies in the past, and they're just not for you.
Yeah, I think some of the conversations ended with, like, if we finish this movie, I have to have a sleepover here tonight because I will never sleep again.
Absolutely. And those sleepovers have indeed happened. So Victoria and I met coming up on 16 years ago.
Our relationship can drive.
It's true. You're right. We were Disney World cast members together all those years ago, which is very apropos to have you on our second Evil Queens series episode about Disney villains. We met, I'll tell the story. I have to tell the story. I love to tell this story. It was our first day out of training as Disney World cast members. We both worked in entertainment, so think characters and parades, and Victoria was a dancer, and so on the after you graduate your traditions class, which is kind of like where you learn and appreciate the history of Disney, you are given your park passes, and so a bunch of brand new cast members are unleashed onto the parks, and we didn't really know anybody. Did you know anybody going in?
No, I didn't know a single soul.
A boy I had dated became a cast member at the same time as me. And the night before check-in, we shared a hotel room at the Pop Century Resort.
What?
His name was
I've never heard this.
Chase. And he was not very nice. I do remember that. And then we were in line when we were in the Disney College Program. We were CP's College Program, which is Disney's internship. It's how they get away for paying people to do hard work for very little money.
Because it's an internship, of course.
And he and I were like, yeah, sure, we'll try to get into the same, the same little apartment to stay in. And then we both got in separate lines, and then didn't request it.
Never saw him
and
again.
I never saw him again.
Never saw him.
But we we went on like a handful of dates back in Phoenix, where I'm from. Anyway, that's not the story. The story.
I've never heard that.
Well, it's not worth telling. The part of the story that's worth telling is the fact that at the end of this day, where we're all kind of making new friends with the people around us, we settled down in front of Cinderella's castle in what used to be a grassy knoll, and it's no longer there now. It's like the rose garden.
It's like a rose garden, yeah. It's really
pretty. With pathways, and anywhere that's grass, you now have to pay extra to stand and watch these fireworks.
Yeah, we didn't pay anything.
We didn't pay nothing. We got paid to be there.
We did.
And I sat down in the grass with a couple people that I had met that day, and I had never been away from home before. I was missing my family and my friends and this life, big life moment, because I didn't go to college out of state or away from home. I was, going to a community college close to my house. So I'm away from my family, and I got very emotional, and I did start crying. And I looked over to my left, and there was this shining, gorgeous, blonde angel human being crying next to me.
Also ugly crying for her life.
Yeah, we were both ugly crying. And we put our arms around each other, didn't know each other. We had never met before that moment. And we held each other, and we have not let go in 16 years. We've seen a lot together.
Yeah.
Including many concerts. We're actually... we are currently recording in the bathroom of a... Where are we staying?
We're at the Kingston Courtyard Marriott.
Kingston Courtyard Marriott. We're in the bathroom because the sound out in the hotel room was atrocious. So if you hear toilets flushing, it's not us. It's the people above us.
Above us or below us, or I don't know. We're doing the best we can.
We're doing that. We're going for it. We're going for it. We traveled up to Woodstock, New York, to see the Dresden Dolls in concert. They haven't played together in about 6 years. That's one of the reasons that Victoria...
We were at that concert, too.
We were at that concert, their last concert. It's one of the reasons that Victoria and I became such close friends. We had this band in common that we both adored, the Dresden Dolls. And, they're known. They're known. They're just not, radio hits. They're not, they had a couple radio songs, but... you said it perfectly to that. Was it a waiter who had never heard of them before? A server? You said, they're not like the biggest band in the world, but the fans are dedicated.
Yeah.
And so that was, I think we both discovered them 20 years ago. And so we've seen the band. This was our second time seeing them as a band together. But then we've seen Amanda Palmer, who is the lead songwriter, and she does the singing and plays piano. We've seen her in concert countless times.
Many times.
Many times. And so it's been a wonderful treat to get out of New York City and take a breath. And we were doing that thing where you leave New York City and you walk around this charming hippie town with lots of history, and we're just pointing at houses like, yeah, I'll live there. And then by the end of the day, we're like looking at Zillow, and I'm like, we should absolutely move here. And the bartender at the place where we're hanging out at is like rolling her eyes like, God damn it, more New Yorkers moving up here.
I know.
But fuck it. It's a really magical place. We're having a great time. I got a tattoo today.
You did?
Spontaneously. I'll put some pictures up in the social media. It's like plastic vampire chomper teeth on my forearm. I've wanted this for a very long time, and it just seemed like the right day to do it. And he did a killer job.
He did such a good job, and I think it was the perfect cherry on top of our spooky vacation. Like, Woodstock is hippie, but it's also a little spooky.
Especially in the fall.
Yeah, there were some cool cemeteries we passed.
Cemeteries everywhere.
And lots of shops with candles and things like it feels like we're in like a Disney rated horror film. Just the little spooks.
We're in Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
Not in Salem, but in Woodstock. When I got this tattoo of the vampire teeth, there was blood coming out of it because it was a fresh tattoo, and it actually was very fitting to be coming out of these vampire teeth tattoos. But we're not here to talk about that.
No, not at all.
Let me ask you a question, Victoria, and we kind of got into it already, but was your week a trick or a treat?
Oh my! This week was definitely a treat. I got to see my husband in a play. I have had rehearsals, and then the end of it is this like trip that we've been going on that I've been waiting for a while. I truly do love being a New Yorker and being a part of that rat race and a working artist there, but it's just so nice to like see stars and see this band that we love so much. It was an incredible concert, so absolutely a total treat of a week.
Yeah, I would agree. Absolute treat. It started out as a trick, though. I had to take my cat to the vet. He had a wound on his face, but it turns out it was self-inflicted, and he's fine. It doesn't bother him. He's not messing with it at all. It'll go away on its own. But I had to get some other tests done on him, routine stuff, and $500 later, the little bastard's doing just fine, which I'm grateful for. It could have been much worse. Let's be real. But little Renfield is okay. Everybody, don't worry. He's happy, and he gets upset at the vet, but like he gets nervous and afraid, but he was very well behaved during the procedure, so we couldn't ask for more. And now it's a treat because of this trip and falling in love with woods. I just feel like a local now. I feel like I could really
you don't have to ask for directions.
Settle in here.
The one road.
We definitely know our way around that one road in downtown Woodstock.
Yes.
Well, all right. I know you're not a big horror movie fan, but I always like to ask the question. I call it your root. What is your horror root? What is the movie, maybe for you specifically, if you don't love horror movies, what's the first horror movie you remember watching?
Oh, gosh. This is a very formative memory that was like a straight up, I don't like this. I think the movie was called What Lies Beneath?
Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford?
Yeah, 100% Harrison Ford, and that's why I went to see it. I am, for those of you who don't know, I'm a Star Wars fan through and through, and I was going to go see Han Solo in this movie.
Me and Michael Myers is her and Leia Organa.
Thank you. And I was just like so excited. And my sister and I went, like my sister had just gotten her license and we went and we were so excited to see it. And like then Michelle Pfeiffer plays the cello. She's from Juilliard. I was like, there's arts in this movie too. It's going to be amazing. And then Harrison Ford was the fucking bad guy and it was terrible. And my sister and I left halfway through. We couldn't stay. It was like too scary. It was too real. He's like drowning her in the bathtub and we're like, no, we're out. And that was a big one for me. I also saw Urban Legend at a sleepover party because I wasn't going to say, don't do it.
Sure.
Because I didn't want to be the scaredy cat. And then for months, I looked under my bed. I thought someone was going to put our dog in the microwave.
That's a good sleepover movie, like for our age group.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies that I remember liking it so much when it first came out. I went to the movies with my mom to see that one. I remember and thinking it was so good, and then you revisit it like 20 years later and it is not good.
I've yet to revisit it.
It's still, but it's a little gay iconic because Rebecca Gayheart is an insane, batshit crazy. She's the one who turns out to be the killer. Spoilers to everybody. And it's a fun sleepover movie. That's the best way to describe it. Sorry,
I was like marinating on your question a little bit. I think my root of horror, like what I can stand and what I do like, because I do like some of it, is like, girl. This is not my phrase. I stole it from a friend, but like girls getting witchy. That's
sure.
Like just a little spooky, a little funky, like
The Craft.
Yes.
Hocus Pocus.
Perfect.
Great.
Yes, all of those things.
Yeah, dig it. Those are great movies. Those are real great movies. So more spooky, not scary for you.
Yes, absolutely more spooky. And I love a good spooky.
Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. Well, your birthday's the day after Halloween, so you have an appreciation for all things spook. Halloween having come and gone, did you watch anything horror? Like, did you watch anything legitimately scary this like recently?
Recently, I loved Hocus Pocus too, but that wasn't like, but no, because my husband is on a gig and there are some things that I'm still like waiting to watch, but I am now like alone in my apartment and I can't. And anytime anything gets a little scary, I'm like, I'll put this on the watch list for later.
The night before Halloween, she texted me and she said, do you think, should I watch Dahmer? And I immediately was like, no!
Yeah, all caps, no. And I was like, but I have a friend who's in it. I need to. And you're like, no, do not.
Not for you, honey. I gave you a list of some appropriate things, but I think you ended up settling watching Girls Getting Witchy. You watched Practical Magic that night, didn't you?
I did, that's what I did.
Which is absolutely one of our favorite films as well. Like, it's just not great, but damn, is it good.
I mean, there is one scary Grey's Anatomy episode in the like 19 seasons. If that is enough to, convert you and make you watch Grey's Anatomy.
No, I've tried.
Yeah, but like, really? What, the Mandy Moore episode is...
Why don't you start watching Chucky? Why don't we do that?
Fair.
Let's see how it works.
Sounds good.
I told her, listen, if you don't ask me to watch the Trolls movie, I will never ask you to watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
To be fair, the Trolls movie is not like the apple of my eye or anything. It was just a really sad point during lockdown, and I was like, oh my god, Anna Kendrick is going to save music with this magical guitar string.
Which is something that we will never say again on the Rick or Treat Horrorcast. I'm so sorry you had to hear that sentence, dear listeners.
What's scary is that I liked it. I have to get away from it. Yeah.
I have watched so much horror lately. It's kind of my job. I think the most recent thing I watched was Terrifier 2. So everyone's talking about this movie, Terrifier 2. Mm-hmm. The first Terrifier came out in, I think, 2016, and it's about a scary killer clown. Mm-hmm. And I am not someone who has a fear of clowns in the least. I am not afraid of clowns, never have been. Art the Clown is genuinely terrifying as hell to me. It's not his design, it's not how he kills people, it's the actor. The man who plays him, I can't think of his name right now, is trained as a mime, and he uses that to his performance.
That's so cool.
And so I'm going to tell this story to Victoria because she has no idea what the hell I'm talking about. These movies are known for being gratuitously graphically violent. You don't go to these movies for a plot. You go to see a woman get sawed in half upside down from vagina to the top of her head. Exactly. So as graphic and upsetting as the first movie was, the second one is that times 40,000. This one was released in movie theaters on a budget of $250,000, and it has raked in $10.1 million over the month of October. So over 30 times its budget, on a reputation through social media that people are passing out and throwing up during this movie. It is 2.5 hours long. That's an audacious thing for a slasher movie to do, is be that long. So here's my deal about it. It is a better movie than the first, but that does not make it a good movie. There are some people who are lauding it for building a universe and building lore around Art the Clown, and he's setting it up for many sequels, and all of those things are happening, but in my opinion, not to the level of intelligence that people are giving this film credit for. And like I said before, no one's going to see this movie for the plot. We're going to see it because your friend on Facebook said it's the most disgusting thing they've ever seen. Or people on Twitter are talking about the now infamous bedroom kill scene that the film uses nothing but practical effects. There are 2 uses of CGI, and they blend so seamlessly and they are so well done. The rest of it is animatronic and practical effects and makeup, and it's effective. For looking at this film and imagining someone in the audience who does not watch horror movies, I can see them passing out and throwing up. Victoria, I could see you getting sick watching this movie.
I'm sure I would.
Even for me, there were a couple moments that got me, like completely got me. We don't give spoilers for things before we start talking about our subject matter for the episode, so I won't talk about what they are, but I'm sure a lot of you listeners have already watched it and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So did I like the movie? It was fun to watch, but it's not, I don't think it deserves all the credit that people are giving it. Now, they're casting locally. They filmed these movies in New Jersey. Do I want to be casting the third one? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yes, we should make this happen.
Get me on board. I want to be killed by Art the Clown. And will I continue to watch these movies as they will obviously pump them out 1,000%. But it was 2.5 hours. I think if you were going to make a long slasher movie, this one could have been shaved down to 2 hours. Like a slasher, a tight 88 minutes is typically what works best for me. Not this. But they did it. All right, I'm trying to get these episodes more succinct in length, and we're already 20 minutes in and we haven't even started talking. I can't not talk to you, though.
I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. All right, well, today this is...
For trolls.
All right, well, why don't we move into the film at hand? This is the second of our Evil Queens series of Disney Villains. You've already heard that I'm a big old Disney nerd who is also able to criticize the company. Don't get me wrong. You know what I've had the thought of doing? Doing the next Disney villain being Bob Chapek, the current CEO, and having like a lesson of how he became CEO. His nickname is Bob Paycheck, BT dubs. It may happen. I've got a Christmas villain lined up, but January is looking pretty open right now.
That's very fun.
Today we're talking about the original Evil Queen from 1937, the very first Disney animated feature, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah.
Voiced by Lucille Laverne, who actually, she passed away only 8 years after making this film.
Oh, wow.
So I wanted to do this villain because being the first of the animated feature Disney villains, I guess the first Disney villain would be Pete the cat. from Steamboat Willie.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who I think deserves an episode as well. He's been used in many iterations, but he's not nearly as evil and truly terrifying as the Evil Queen. So actually the Evil Queen is known as Evil Queen, but has a name. Her name is Grimhilda. Ooh. But she doesn't go by that in the film. No one knows that. It's just part of her character kind of description. She appears to us first in the film in her beautiful form.
Yes.
Gazing into her magic mirror. She starts, her first line in the film is slave. Yeah. In the plan, she literally says she'll be buried alive. Like her plan is to bury Snow White alive in a sleeping death. Mm-hmm. Now, I just realized they put Snow White in a glass coffin, so she probably doesn't need oxygen if she's in a glass coffin. So she would just be like lying down there.
Yeah, it's probably not an airtight coffin, right? Like, I think the idea of... Because it says that she's still so fair and they loved her so much they couldn't bring themselves to be without her, so the dwarves can't bury her, so they put her in a golden coffin so they can see her. I'm thinking the glass coffin is not airtight. I think if she would have been buried, she would have died.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad they didn't bury her then.
Those are my thoughts.
I think that's the best parts of her in her little witch's lair. I think my favorite part of the movie is when she's headed out. She's out for the night, right? She's got her black cloak. She's got her little basket. She's got her poison apple. And she is walking to the gondola, and there's a guy, like a skeleton, like reaching out of a cage, out of like kind of bars for a jug just out of his reach, right? This guy died reaching for what's in this jug, and she's just like, she's walking, and then she stops and look at him, and she goes,
thirsty? Have a drink.
and she kicks the empty bottle, like the jug, at him, and he falls apart. Like, what is? And then she laughs at it.
She's laughed, and also she hasn't touched it. He died reaching for that water. He became a full-on skeleton. I'm assuming it's he. Became a full-on skeleton reaching for that water, and she hasn't touched him since. And in this moment, she's drunk on her power, so she kicks him.
I mean, when I used to drink, I could see myself being drunk and making a crack like that and thinking it was funny. Thirsty? Have a drink! And then she laughs at her own joke.
Thirsty? Have a drink.
She keeps walking, and she gets on kind of like at the moat of the castle and gets into a gondola. And like...
It's very foggy.
What did you say? She's like she's a very talented gondolier.
She's a very skilled gondolier.
Yeah. And, kind of through the bog, and then lands across the water and kind of traipses out into the night. We have more dwarf scenes, and when we next see her, the dwarves have gone off to work, and Snow White is alone. And the hag, you know what I also realized this time in lore, and when talking about witches and even witchcraft, you have Maiden Mother Crone. Right? They were recently portrayed in Sandman. Is it the Fates that he talks to? They are portrayed as Maiden, Mother, and Crone. Young woman, middle-aged woman, old woman. In this film, we have Maiden, Snow White, Mother or Stepmother, Evil Queen, and Crone, the hag. Oh, she's done it herself? That's so interesting. Yeah, it's just cool. I love that idea. Approaches the window. Snow White's making Grumpy a pie. We noticed Snow White is like living to get Grumpy's approval. She prays to God that Grumpy will like her.
Please make Grumpy like me. And then she makes him his own pie.
Yeah, I don't think she was baking pies for anybody else. In fact, when the hag says something like, "Is there a man that you love?" I'm like, yeah, it's Grumpy.
It's straight up Grumpy. She just really wants his affection.
We also see on her way to the cottage a pair of vultures start flying behind her.
So scary.
And they're so cash about it, right? They have this like sinister, sneaky eye that like on her.
Yeah.
Right. And so
They just know she smells like death and there's food somewhere.
yeah, absolutely. She talks to Snow White, talks her into making an apple pie instead of gooseberry.
It's what is it? It's like the most sexist line. It's like apple really makes the men's hearts go thunder or something.
It's apple pies that makes the the men's hearts, something like that. I mean, I love a good apple pie. Have you ever had an apple pie from the little pie shop on 43rd Street?
No.
It's Sarah Jessica Parker's Thanksgiving pie every year. It is a sour cream and apple pie. And oh my God, is it delish. I hope they sponsor me if they're listening to this. Of course, all of the apples in her basket are green except for the poisoned one, which is pretty smart. We don't want to confuse which apple is poisoned and which one isn't.
I mean, she doesn't have to have a license for it. She's just walking around with it. She needs to keep it straight.
Now, Snow White is not interested in taking a bite until the hag says, "One bite and all your dreams come true. Now make a wish and take a bite." And that's when she does it, because Snow White had prayed to God the same time she prayed for Grumpy to like her, please make my dreams come true.
Right, that she wants to, which, we see Snow White run into this place, and she has that whole like nightmare fuel sequence that's fueled by her fear of the evil queen, and so that she's not dumb, and Grumpy, she loves him, has told her, very beware, like, don't let anyone in this house. And so she's not gonna do anything, but then it's like the one thing is said. Like, everybody has a tell, everybody has an Achilles heel, and hers is her dream. She wants her dream to come true. She wants to make this wish.
Which is relatable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't mind my dreams coming true.
Yeah, wouldn't we all?
She even says something to the effect of, quickly, don't let the dream grow cold.
Don't let the wish grow cold.
Don't let the wish grow cold. Yeah, which is pretty, it's a good line.
It is a good line.
It's a great line.
I'm going to say that the next time someone's blowing out birthday candles.
Quickly, don't let the wish grow cold. The woodland animals at this time are freaking the fuck out and trying to get the dwarves' attention. And it's Grumpy who realizes, he says, they ain't acting this way for nothing.
Right.
And then, was it Happy? Sleepy, I think, realizes, what if it's the queen back at Snow White? So now we have everything happening at once. Snow is taking a bite of the apple. The hag, the evil queen, is like being spooky, making like, weird faces at her. And the dwarves and the animals are running back to the cottage. Right. It's great. It's real great.
Is really important in this sequence, which like draws it out, is that she says her wish in great detail right before she holds up the apple like it's a thing she's wishing on. It's not she thinks it and she bites. She like proclaims her wish out loud.
Yeah,
and that gives us that beautiful time, because it's like, oh God, she's doing it, and then they're running. Yeah, and so it has that like suspension, like the anticipation of her biting the apple, because she takes so long to proclaim this wish.
Absolutely. After Snow White takes the bite, she falls and we see the apple roll out of her hand. It's a great shot. The hag laughs, walks out the door, and then sees the dwarves and the animals a-coming for her. Yeah. So she runs in the other direction. It's really cool. We did brush over, you briefly mentioned it, the moment Snow White is running through the woods. I think we're going to bring that back when we talk about the ride at Disney instead.
Okay, great.
But it kind of harkens back to that a little bit. It's fast-paced running through the woods. It starts raining. Those vultures are following the hag now, and she starts running up...
like a mountain.
Basically a mountain, like a rocky mountain. And gets up to the top and realizes she's trapped. She's like, I'm trapped up here. And then grabs a stick and starts prying it underneath this giant boulder. So the dwarves are coming up the mountain. There's a boulder. Hag is on the other side, and she's trying to push this boulder down to smash the seven dwarves.
Smash them.
Yeah. She even says, I'll fix you. I'll get you. I'll crush your bones. And then, she's real just vicious AF.
She's so vicious.
In a flash of lightning, it strikes kind of the cliff where she's standing, and it crumbles, and she falls, and that boulder falls on her. And you hear the boulder thud at the same time as thunder crashes. And we see those two vultures watch it happen.
And they just circle and go down.
And then it's really cool because as they circle, it starts to fade through the rain. It's a really interesting kind of transition. I almost get the impression that they knew that she was going to die the whole time.
The vultures, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, so they weren't following her because they thought she'd make a kill. She was an old lady who was going to die soon.
Or just they sensed her time coming.
Yeah.
It's what I always felt.
That they just knew.
That they just knew. I also, as a little kid, used to get these vultures confused with the ones in the Jungle Book that sing "We Are Friends."
Well, don't start that again.
They tried to get the Beatles to do that, and they said absolutely not. So they got people who sound like the Beatles to do it.
That's so funny.
And that is the end of our evil queen. Of course, we all know how the story ends, but the queen doesn't have a lot of presence in this film. Not a lot of screen time. No,
and I think she's on screen as the hag more than she is as
the evil queen.
Yeah.
I think that's right. She's iconic. I think that she doesn't get as much credit, I think, in the villain canon as she deserves. Maleficent is known as the mistress of evil, and she is, equally. I mean, I put them. I like them at the same level for me personally. I think Maleficent has a little more appeal. She's got a little more. Does she have more screen time though? She has more. She has a more of a build up.
But I think she's also become an icon because of her sass. Like she looks at the people around her as like fools, and she has some of those.
She makes a good meme.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's memeable. But she's sassy. The evil queen is never sassy.
No,
she's just straight up on a mission to kill someone because she is more beautiful than she is.
Yeah.
Like there's evil, and I think we love to, especially with Disney villains, we love to associate and like find a villain to be our villain that is has the sass, has the
my villain is Ursula.
But like she has the lines, she has the song, and this is but you also said it's wonderful because she is a straight up villain and she's just scary.
There's nothing, I mean, she has the thirsty have a drink moment.
Thirsty? Have a drink!
But
that's also terrifying.
When I was a kid, I didn't think it was funny. Now it's hilarious. When I was a kid, it was not funny. That was mean and scary.
There's no, like, she's gorgeous and then she's ugly.
And she looks directly at the audience when she tells them how she's going to kill Snow White. Yeah. It's very well thought out. She's very well portrayed. I want to kind of wrap things up by going into how she's portrayed in other iterations. So actually, in a poll in kind of the UK area where these many of these fairy tales take place, there was a recent poll within maybe the last decade of like who's everyone's favorite like fairy tale villain, and the Evil Queen came in first.
Oh, awesome.
Which I don't know that she would in America.
Yeah.
Well, if we think of Grimm's, who else is there? Because Maleficent is not. She was made up for the Disney movie. Right. Like, there's an evil character in the story, but her name isn't Maleficent.
Right.
Who can say who it would be? But so she's the most famous in there. I always like to remember it was a film in the 90s called Snow White, A Tale of Terror, starring Sigourney Weaver. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
So it was one of those VHS boxes at like Blockbuster in the horror section that was just so striking to me. It was so scary. Sigourney Weaver looking scary as the hag, not related to the Disney film at all, but obviously she disguises herself. And so we ended up watching it. If I understand correctly, the movie was to go to theaters, but didn't, and ended up being like a Showtime original movie or something like that. It didn't get a theatrical release. Sam Neill plays Snow White's father. So Dr. Grant from Jurassic Park is in it, who could still get it. Man, I went and saw Jurassic Park, the last one, Dominion, is that what it was?
Yeah.
He's like 70 and
he's dead.
Oof.
Yeah.
Thirsty?
Sigourney Weaver selected this role because she wanted to play the character. It's not because she liked the screenplay or anything. She just wanted to play the evil queen. I think, if I remember correctly, the movie has like no business being is better than you think it is, but it's probably not a masterpiece. I should revisit that one.
I need to see it. That sounds incredible. I just remembered about, because you're talking about other iterations and other films and things.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, one of my favorite films was called Happily Ever After.
Oh, yeah.
I made you watch it. I forgot that I made you watch it.
Well, we had rented it once. I remember. I had seen it before.
But it's this, I don't think it's Don Bluth. I think it's someone else. But it's very clearly a Disney ripoff, because the second, it starts with Snow White and the prince riding off of the horse.
Yes.
And somehow the evil queen has not died, and she comes and she kidnaps the prince.
Okay.
And so she's very badass, and she has more strength, and she's voiced by someone very famous.
It is someone very famous.
The dwarves have gone because they think Snow White's okay. She's off with a prince, and so then they have to go find the dwarf elves, and that whole movie is full of just strong females, and then the evil queen being also ridiculous. But then there's also another villain in there that's not the evil queen. But anyway, she comes back in that one, and she has a henchman who's like an owl.
That.
He sings a song about being bad, and one of his lines is I'm a dirty birdie. And I just remember as a child, again, something as a child that was terrifying.
I should revisit that, or maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should let it live as a memory. I also really loved in Enchanted, Susan Sarandon's portrayal as Nerissa, Queen Nerissa.
Yeah.
Because at the end of that, she's transformed into an evil hag, and she does a poisoned apple martini to give to Princess Giselle. But her makeup, her hag makeup, is really real good at the end, for sure. But I did want to mention the Queen's representation in the Disney parks. She's always so much fun to meet. Her costume looks right. I just love that her costume translates well to park costumes.
Yeah.
Because some characters don't.
Well, and she's stunning. I mean, it's been closed for a very long time. Is so stunning in Spectro Magic, because she has the full cape and it's all lit up, and then she's on the back of the float with a mirror that's also lit up. And
yeah.
It's such a gorgeous image of that section.
For those who don't know, Spectro Magic was the nighttime parade at the Magic Kingdom when Victoria and I were cast members. She was actually in that parade for a very long time. She also obviously appears in Fantasmic, but I have vivid childhood memories of riding Snow White's Scary Adventure, and this happened to a lot of families, not knowing how scary it was. Mm-hmm. When you're standing in the queue, you can see the evil queen up in a window. The curtain kind of opens and you see her standing out, and then it closes, staring out, and then it closes again. But the ride depicts the moment when Snow White runs from the huntsman before it's kind of like almost the whole movie, but a big old chunk of it.
You're checking in with me? I have to tell you, I never went on it.
What?
I know. When I was a child, I was too afraid, because it was literally called Snow White's Scary Adventure.
Oh, wow.
And my mom was like, you'll be too afraid, you don't want to do it. And then when we were cast members, I kept meaning to go on it, and then it closed.
Wow. Well, there were many iterations of it. Apparently, when it first opened when Disneyland first opened, it was even scarier. And then I think they kind of dulled it down, and then they made it scarier again. When I wrote it, I just remember the logs on the floor that look like alligators chomping, because it's Snow White's imagination when she's running through the dark woods for a good chunk of the ride. So the trees with the hands reaching at you, and this really cool effect where you're coming up on the evil queen looking in the mirror, and so you see her back to you, and you see her reflection, her beautiful queen face in the mirror, and then she turns around, the animatronic turns around, and the front side of it is the hag. So the back side of this animatronic is the evil queen's cape, and then it turns around, and the front of it is the hag. So she turns around and tries to hand you the apple, and I remember she says, "Have a bite," and my dad said, "Not of that apple," and it was really, I just remember,
that's really
I don't have a lot of fun memories with my dad, but I remember of that one.
That's a fun
I
one.
do remember I was so afraid of the Haunted Mansion I wouldn't open my eyes, but I wanted to ride Snow White multiple times, and I think it's because I was familiar with the story. Haunted Mansion was not a story that I knew anything
Right.
about. Snow White was. But that feels... Oh, you brought up a really good point, too, while we were watching it, is that it was the wishing apple, technically, that made Snow White's dream come true.
You're right. Yeah, I was thinking it, and I was like, wait, she takes a bite, she falls asleep, and then literally, like, because we were just saying, she takes forever to say this dream out loud, this wish out loud, and then takes a bite, like, exactly as, like, and then he will carry me off to his castle. She wakes up, she has kissed, he picks her up, puts her on the horse, and carries her off to his castle. And I'm just like, as far as she knows, she how long, like, I mean, it's a year because you have those passing of the seasons on that, you know, and you see the snow on the coffin, and you see that, so I'm assuming it's a year, but she doesn't know she's been asleep for a year.
Right.
She takes a bite and then is woken up and goes to the... So I'm like, it is a wishing apple for her.
And I never thought of that. It's pretty cool. I don't want to necessarily get too deep into the conversation about consent, but the ride has been updated. You still see the evil queen transform, but it's called Snow White's Enchanted Wish now, and it's more about Snow White and less about the scary parts of her story. And the ride always ended abruptly, right? The hag is killed, and then you see the castle, and that's it.
Right.
And the mural that says happily ever after. They've added now the kiss scene, and there are a number of parents who are upset because it's depicting Snow White being kissed without consent. I will never pretend to speak on consent when it comes to like women's situations. She's unconscious, right? But they were in love before.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, I mean, my husband's kissed me while I was asleep. And I, like, yes, I think it might spark a conversation with your children, especially if they're, like, of a certain age where they're starting to understand those things. But I think they were in love. I mean, she gives him those big eyes when she runs away, and she's praying to see him again, and he's searching.
And her wish is to see her, like, to see, you know, her. She sings a song about someday my prince will come, like,
yeah,
you know.
I think there's been lots of clear consent, even if it wasn't a direct conversation that they had. But
yeah, you know, I think here's the thing about it. It's an interesting conversation. It's a conversation. It's a conversation.
And I, like, even as I'm saying this, I'm like, oh, is that right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's just...
here's my thing. It's in the movie. Are we not, like, are we just going to pretend like that doesn't exist? I don't know.
Right.
Is Snow White canceled?
If you don't want your kids to watch, this is what I do feel confident saying. There's things out there at Disney in any ride, any parade, there are people complaining that Maleficent is too scary in the day parade now. And you don't have to watch the day parade.
Right.
There's the park is open.
Everything is not for everybody.
You don't have to go on that ride.
Yes.
You cannot. It's impossible to do all of the things in Disney in a day. So skip the things that you don't want to expose your children to.
Exactly.
If you really don't think that's consent and you don't want them to see it, then don't show them Snow White the movie, and don't take them on that ride.
Yeah. It's a great point. There, you know, our next iteration of the Evil Queen will be portrayed by Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman herself. There's a live action Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs film coming out. Rachel Ziegler, who played Maria in the remake of West Side Story, will be playing Snow White. You know, my roommate knows her. So the guy who played Chino in West Side Story, he and Rachel were friends, and Chino worked at the same bar as my roommate. And so my roommate, who does not care about musicals in the least, got to go watch West Side Story with Rachel Ziegler and the guy who played Chino at an Alamo Draft House, just like, hey, let's go see West Side Story. And I couldn't go because I had to fucking work and I couldn't get out of it that night. And he sent me a picture of the three of them, like, waving at me.
That's so nutty.
I know. So
he took you the picture, you know.
This new film, I'm curious. I'm interested and curious. I think Gal Gadot is a good choice.
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect for her acting as the hag. because while I do think that she is a good actor, I don't see a character actor in her in the least. But time will tell.
But I mean, we don't know what people are capable of until it's asked of them.
That's
She's
true.
Never been asked to be a character.
Or exactly. You did bring up an interesting point, and if either of us say anything that leaves room for further education in this conversation for us, please know that we are both completely open to it. But the film, the title and the character Snow White implies a person of Caucasian origin.
Right. Absolutely.
Even the term fairest in the land, while fair does also mean beautiful, it is beautiful because it is fair. Light.
Well, and then, which is, wrong, but it's what's in the movie. And what is in the movie as of now is he literally says, like, skin as white as snow.
Yes.
And again, I think that's totally incorrect. Like, that is something I will say absolutely totally incorrect for us to, make that synonymous with the other fair, with the beautiful fair. But it is there, so I'm just so interested as what's going to happen.
Well, I love that we've cast a woman of color, right? A Latinx woman as Snow White. I think it draws attention to it, and I would hope that Disney has a plan. And Gal Gadot is, I believe she's Israeli. Is she Israeli?
That sounds right.
Perhaps considered white presenting or white passing, but that's not a conversation that I am skilled or educated enough to have. But it opens up a conversation. I think also a big controversy right now is that Peter Dinklage drew attention to the fact that they're making a movie about fairy tale dwarves again. And he's like, really? Are we still doing this, guys? Mm-hmm. He brings up a good point. I know Disney then made careful efforts to work with little people and see how they can do this appropriately. I don't know. I saw an image of the costumes and it looks pretty.
Yeah, I don't think that this story. I think it's great that they are making a live action, because I don't think that we should totally throw it out because it has some problems. Let's fix the problems in the live action. And I'm just really. And I don't know if you can fix problems that this show has, but that doesn't mean that. I think it's exciting, and I hope it's all dealt with well. Yeah,
that's my hope for it too. I'm not a fan of these live actions, I gotta say. I don't need them. It's not adding anything. It's not bringing value to me. It's just making money, and for some reason, we keep spending money on going to see them. Yep. I may or may not have once seen a bootleg extended video clip of a certain half human, half ocean creature singing a very popular song about wanting to go somewhere in a upcoming live action adaptation of an animated film. And I gotta say, that extended clip that I may or may not have seen was incredible. It looks so good. This actress who may or may not be in a movie about a half human, half sea creature, mythical creature.
You're so nervous right now.
I'm like fucking with my pen. I'm trying to be smart and clever about this. Halle Bailey is going to crush it as Ariel.
Yes.
I have seen 100%. Proof. She is fucking amazing, and the sequence is gorgeous. It made me tear up, and so that is a live action that I'm excited for.
Yes.
The stakes are really high for that one, though, because it's so many people's favorites.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Guilty as charged over here.
Yeah.
In talking about live action portrayals of these characters, I do think it is important to touch on Disney's descendants, because the evil queen is in that very prevalently.
Kathy Najimy.
Yes.
Yeah, she's so good.
And although Kristen Chenoweth as Maleficent concocts the plan, she is right there with her making all of that happen. And I love that her daughter is a seamstress and wants to design fashion, because she's been around all of those. She's been around those amazing clothes. She's been around those things, the things that we associate with the evil queen. It makes perfect sense that she's going into fashion school, and that's just something that I really love. And I think Evie is my favorite descendant.
I did like that movie. I will admit it. I didn't expect to. It has no business being as good as it is. I mean, it's not a masterpiece, but for a Disney Channel original film, it's up there. You got me into that one, and you got me into zombies.
Yes.
And Teen Beach Movie is fun too.
I'm so happy right now.
But that's it. I'll never watch Trolls. Damn it.
I don't want you to watch Trolls. It was a very weak, sad moment. I think the other ones are the Descendants films are great. I think Descendants 2 is even better. The music slaps. But like Rotten to the Core as a theme song when she's like dancing with the apple.
No, it's great.
Like there's just something really, and it's introducing this whole. I first saw it with my nephews.
Yeah.
And it's introducing this whole generation to this villain that came out in 1937.
Yes. Yeah. It's a good time. All right. Well, I think that we have covered the Evil Queen.
The Evil Queen.
I thank you all for tuning in week after week after week. Your response to this podcast has absolutely been so valuable to me. It's been so wonderful doing this, as getting this dream going. If you want to follow the Rick or Treat Horrorcast on social media, I'm only available on Instagram now. I am jumping off of the Twitter bandwagon. I don't see a reason to pursue it. I never liked it anyway. And I am just going to find more creative ways to get this podcast out there to people. So follow me on Instagram instead. It is at Rick or Treat Pod. If you want to follow me, Ricky, your host, I'm on Instagram at Rick, the letter R, Treat. And I just joined Letterboxd, y'all. I discovered this new social media platform for reviewing movies, and I'm never going to put my phone down again. So if you want to pal me on Letterboxd, I am at Rick or Treat. So look me up. Victoria, do you want anybody to follow you on this, to stalk you on the socials? You don't have to.
No, absolutely. Please. If you want like sweaty gym selfies because I'm proud of myself, or cat pictures of my cats, please follow me on Instagram. It is at Victoria Rae Sook. Sook is my maiden name. It's also still my professional name. And that's on every single platform, is just Victoria Rae Sook is my professional Facebook. And at this time, I do still have a Twitter. I'm figuring out what to do with that. But it's come look me up. We'll have a good time. You'll see me. And I go to a lot of theater and I talk about it. So that's fun.
Look her up. She's a fun time. Also, keep an ear out next week. I think it's going to be Thursday. I'm going to be making my first guest appearance on another queer horror podcast. I'm joining the boys over at Scared Gay. And we're going to be talking about a Thanksgiving classic, Thanksgiving, about a demon-possessed killer turkey. Yeah. So, and definitely follow them, too. They're so cool. I believe it's at Scared Gay Podcast on Insta. They are a real treat. You can read my movie, TV reviews on spoilerfreereviews.com. It's an excellent source of literally spoiler-free reviews. And that's what we have for you on our second edition of Evil Queens. So we'll end this by saying, and they died unhappily ever after. Later, spookies.